Hey there again, folks. Welcome back to Remember11, the Age of Infinity. Picking back up where we left off. Last time we learned about it's more about Emogi, Satoru, and Mayuzumi. Mayuzumi liked Ferris wheels, not Ferris wheels, but merry-go-rounds. It's kind of the same as a Ferris wheel, only kind of on its side and quite a lot less dangerous than a Ferris wheel would be on its side. Would a Ferris wheel be really dangerous on its side? Has somebody made that before? Seems like it could be dangerous. Guess it depends on how fast. Anyway, that's not important. Not important enough. Yeah, all that good stuff. And let's pick up where we go. When I raised my head, spread before me was the same scene I saw 2 days ago, completely unchanged. Far off in the distance, the horizon dividing sky and sea. A myriad of twinkling stars above it, the glassy depths of the dark ocean below. This was Aosagi Island after all. After I finished confirming it, I took a deep breath and immediately turned back the way I came. Just as I did, I caught the merest glimpse of a strange shadow out of the corner of my eye. I had only walked 10 or 20 meters from the shore. The shadow was just inside the circle. Some kind of flesh-colored cloth covered it. I think it's closing. Drawn to it, I headed away from a previous path and headed over to it instead. Oh. Realized with a single glance that it was a corpse. The remains of a lone girl lay there, almost buried in the snow. Tried lifting her arm, but she didn't move an inch. No, she was clearly past the point of being able to move. Call her an ice sculpture, the way she was now. She was frozen solid, no longer any different from the snow that surrounded her. Only her dead face, so similar to a sleeper's, hinted that there had once been life there. Her pale white skin, her face encased in ice, shone under the faint light of the stars with an almost enchanting beauty. It may have been imprudent, but I almost forgot about the time as I stared at that face. Of course, I couldn't recall ever having met her. Just who was she? And how did a girl get all the way out here in the first place? Returning to my senses, I searched her until I discovered a wallet. There's a driver's license inside. I drew it out and looked down at it. I see a lot of zeros down there. 00 symbol, 00 symbol, 00 symbol. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. She looks a little nervous in that, in that picture. Okay. Well, I guess the transfer happened between Hattori and... So she's still alive? They said it was inside the circle. So maybe the personality of Tori went into... I don't know. I'm just gonna keep going because I don't think it can come up with any good idea for what's really happened. Apparently, I mean, I guess she went into Keiko. The remains lying there and began to run. Not sure as though it wasn't as though I felt no guilt. But I no longer had the freedom to dwell on it right now. I kicked up snow as I ran. Practically rode down the slope back to the cabin. Fragmented thoughts raced around my head, or through my head. Tsukage Hattori. The girl's name was Hattori. But she was no longer alive. That girl was the real Tsukage Hattori. At the same time, I've got to get these, got to get those three out of the circle. Chaos reigned in my head. I felt as though I was losing it. Charged forward, raising my legs as high as I could, hoping to regain my reason. At that moment, I heard something, a whirring rhythmic sound rending the atmosphere. Looking up, I saw a helicopter. It's probably a self-defense force transport vehicle. Its propeller rotated in its designated circle, keeping its heavy frame up in the air. This isn't Mount Akakura. It's Aosagi Island. It wouldn't have been at all strange for a transport helicopter to pass overhead. But I only knew that because I knew the truth. Yomogi and Lin were inside the shelter cabin. And as soon as I thought that, sure enough, both of them came flying out of the cabin. Panicking as though this was their last chance.
Oi! Kokoro da! こっちだー!
助けてー！もう、こっちよ！こっち！どこ行くつもりなのよ！
They were probably drawn out by the sound of the helicopter. They waved their arms at the aircraft frantically. Yomogi was clutching a flashlight in one hand. After a while, Uni appeared as well, staggering as he ran. Not as I made sure all three of them were there. And took off running after the helicopter. Luckily, it was heading right in my direction. Stood there in place and waited for them to come to me. Turning my head, I followed it with my eyes, breathing hard. It was pretty high up. I could tell that it was by the way it was shaped. But from this distance, it was difficult to make out anything else. The helicopter glided further away through the starry sky. And eventually, the three of them reached me.
おい、何やってんだよ、冬川さん。わからないのか。ほら、あれだよ、あれ、ヘリが来たんだよ。
Mogi shouted, breathing roughly. He pointed straight up at the helicopter overhead.
おい、待ってくれー!
Shouting at the top of his lungs, Yomogi began to chase after it again. Lin and Uni followed close behind them. I chased after them as well. There's no reason not to. If they continued on like this, the three of them would probably escape the circle. Wait, the three of them? What about me? What happened to Kokoro's body? But even as I thought that, I ran on, continuing my pursuit. Yeah, I mean, you don't want Kokoro to be stranded there. As we ran, he began to speak.
サトレ！
なんだ？
実は伝えなきゃいけないことがあるんだ。
Out of breath, he tried to speak over the pauses for breath that broke up his sentences.
だからなんだよ。
いい？サトレ。僕らはきっとサークルの外には出れない。
え？
もうすぐなんだ。時空間転移が起こるのは。
I glanced down at my wristwatch. The hands were pointing to 10:52 p.m. The edge of the circle was still far off.
サトレ、落ち着いて聞いてね。僕らがここでこうして会うのはこれが最後なんだよ。
His words stopped me in my tracks. Uni halted as well and turned to face me.
なんでかっていうと、17日にならないとその次の転移が起こらないからなんだ。
お前、どうしてそんなことを知ってるんだ？
いいから黙って聞いてよ。時間がないんだから。 次の転移が発生するのは17日の午前4時48分。繰り返すよ。次の転移が発生するのは17日の午前4時48分なんだ。だからその時までに。
Oh, okay. See, I was about to start to think about something completely different. I was thinking, what if Uni is actually Kokoro? Because Satoru got out of her. Oh no, that would have been dumb though. That wouldn't have. That could be what would happen if he had made it out of the circle. She would have zapped into Uni's body. Or, well, no, she probably wouldn't have done that at all. But I was kind of thinking that, but yeah, that wouldn't work at all. And it's not what happens either. So yeah, it's not what happens. So, damn it, a transfer. The starry sky disappeared, and the temperature around me suddenly rose. Before my eyes, I couldn't see a thing. Only feel, and it was like being wrapped in something very soft. Felt human bodily warmth against my face, arms, and chest. I seemed to be holding someone. No, am I the one being held? I timidly pulled my body away. Still didn't know what was going on. I looked up. Form was at Sumi's face, wearing a gentle smile. I jumped back reflexively. Sumi met my reaction with a puzzled stare, her eyes wide. That room looks a little bit different than normal. Began to think about the current position of my body. Did Sumi's face being above me mean I was kneeling? Both my knees were on the floor and my face was buried in her chest. Wow, why would Kokoro? This was SPHIA's living area. Just the same as it was. What? Not really.
何なんだこれは。
I was shocked by the drastic alteration to the appearance of the living area. The sofa had been ripped to shreds, its stuffing exposed like entrails. The table had been flipped over, the chairs broken, and the computer monitor knocked to the floor. The living area and the dining area used to have a glass divider between them. There was no more, having been shattered into tiny pieces. The plasma display screen by the wall was full of cracks that radiated outward from its center. A huge hole gaped open in the middle of it as though it had been shot through with an enormous bullet. A scene of terrible violence. This was beyond a tragedy. I was speechless. The concept of words had completely left my head. She asked, smiling calmly. I was still in shock at the sight of it. All my efforts to gather my thoughts were completely futile. Slowly nodded.
ついさっき立ち上がるちょっと前。
This music is very strange. Not bad, it's just... I don't know. For my extremely limited command of spoken language, I was somehow able to pluck the appropriate words.
じゃあ覚えてないのかしら。
何を？
このリビングで暴れたこと。
暴れた？
そうよ。
つまりこれは心が。どうして？
さあ、私にはわからないわ。物音に気づいた時にはすでにあなたは暴れてたから。それで私があなたをなだめて
抱きしめた。
Asumi silently nodded. Why had Kokoro done such a horrible thing? No matter what the circumstances were, just couldn't understand how this level of violence was the product of her hand. Yet another great mystery had been born. That wasn't all that bothered me. Sumi's attitude. As I recall, didn't she resent me for getting in the way of her plan? To a certain extent, she had returned to her gentle self this afternoon, but even then she didn't so much as smile at me once. It was different now. She gazed at me with eyes full of love, like the Virgin Mary. I tried to gauge her true intentions. Ever a mystery, an obscuring tempest of mysteries. Couldn't understand any of this, but that didn't matter anymore. Got used to never getting any answers.
ごめん。ちょっと一人にさせてくれ。
With that weak utterance, I went to take my leave, but I stopped at once and turned back.
そういえば、ほとりとユニは
逃げたわ。二人一緒にユニ君の部屋へ。
そうか。ありがとう。
I didn't dare question her any further. She says that they ran away, then that means Kokoro hadn't just attacked inanimate objects, but people as well. How could this have happened? I dragged myself to my room with hated feet. What really happened to Kokoro? That was the only thing passing through my mind right now. Just what had happened right before the transfer. I checked the notepad, but there weren't any new messages there. Or know what had happened at SPHIA while I was away. Besides reading Kokoro's messages and asking the others, I had no other way of knowing. Should I try asking Uni and Hattori? Didn't really feel up to it. It was as plain as day what had happened with them. It'd be great if there were another way, a way to check what had happened before the transfer. Guess now I remembered something, Inamoto's words.
そんなに知りたいのなら後で見せてやろう。
There aren't. I was about to say he could like strap a GoPro camera on his head, but there's actually, yeah, there are actually cameras and stuff.
ちょうど先ほどデータを整理したんでね。
Data. Lore? That third guy that I can't remember the name of. Now that I think about it, there was surveillance equipment set up in that small room, which meant that data couldn't have been the footage recorded by the surveillance cameras, could it? The machine in that small room might store all of it. Left for that room right away. The door to the room had been left open. Passing through it, I stood before the console. The computer was still on as well. I can't talk tonight. The OS was no different from the usual. Set a terminal and began to type. Was able to retrieve the video surveillance data with ease. In the meantime, I tried playing the footage from the camera in the living area. Flickered to life on the main overhead monitor. I watched intently. Sunday, January 15, 2012. Time, 10:18 p.m. Location, living area. I saw myself on screen, engrossed in conversation with Uni. Camera probably didn't have a microphone because I couldn't hear any voices. Had no memories of this, which meant that the body I'm seeing was being controlled by Kokoro's consciousness. Uni moved his lips as though muttering something. My body did as well. Uni gave a small nod. He squeezed his palm shut. My body drew closer to Uni. Uni slowly began backing away. An expression of fear formed on his childlike face. Fear swallowed by sorrow? Tears were starting to swell up from behind his glasses. Then for a time the two of them stood still as I looked on. Silence continued. Eventually Uni raised one arm. Extending a finger, he pointed it straight at my body. Uni's lips just barely moved. Immediately after that, what was it thinking? My body suddenly struck Uni. Whoa! It hit Uni. Uni's small body was knocked to the floor. Then, as if it hadn't had enough, my body hurled itself on top of Uni with great force. My body began to squeeze Uni's thin neck. At that moment, Hattori suddenly appeared from the corner of their screen. Hattori circled around behind my body, wrapped her arms around its hips, and began pulling with all her might, so though she were trying to tear my body away from Uni. Oh, my body turned around and threw Hattori to the floor. Since their mouths were wide open, did that mean they were yelling? And thus an act of shocking brutality unfolded before my eyes. My body tore apart the sofa. grabbed the ashtray from the table and aimlessly hurled it away. Hit the plasma display straight on. The fragments of the screen exploded into the air. Swung the chairs around, kicked over the table, and grabbed the computer monitor, yanking at it until it tore it free of its wires. Still gripping the monitor, he used it to demolish the glass partition between the two rooms. Couldn't bear to watch what happened next. My body went into a violent fit, tearing around the room like a wild beast.
これが冬川心の正体。
Okay, so Hattori is apparently dead. So is her personality the actual Hattori going to Keiko? And maybe that pushes out the personality, the killer personality, and it somehow goes into Kokoro? Maybe it's the initiation, maybe it's the thing that initiates the transfer, maybe? Somehow? I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and call it here though, because pretty good stopping point, kinda. But you guys are very curious about what happens next, right? But there's some great mystery that's revealed in the next episode. Plus, my back is kind of killing me. All the rounding with Mayazumi. Seriously, the law needs to, deal with, bad backs. But anyway, do sincerely hope you guys enjoyed, and next time, maybe we can get some answers. See you then, folks.